allihopa, så jag vet inte om ni vet, men jag kan prata 4 språk. Marunong ako ng Swedish, Tagalog, English, at saka Danish. Kaya sa video na to, ikakwento ko sa inyo kung paano ko natutunan yung 4 na salita na yun. Och jag får riktigt många spörsmål från om jag kan lägga en video om alla de språk jag kan tala och om jag kan tala lite i deras språk med So that is what I'm going to do today. So guys, that was just a little bit of a demo of the languages that I can speak. And in this video, I just want to kind of talk to you guys about how I learned those languages and why I even learned those languages. So I don't know if you guys know, because I didn't even know this, but apparently when you know 4 languages and up, you're called a polyglot, and I did not know that, and that sounds really cool. So I was like, I have to, share that word to you guys because it's a new word in your vocabulary. And if you know more than 10 languages, then you're called a hyper polyglot, which is something my mom wants to become, and maybe me one day, I'm not sure yet. But if you can speak 2 languages, then you're called a bilingual. If you can speak 3 languages, then you're called a trilingual. Also, for all of these languages, as long as you know 2 languages and up, you can also just say that you are multilingual. So yeah, let's just start off with why I even learn these languages. So, and also let's go to the very first part, okay? So when I was born and raised in Sweden, so that is why I learned Swedish. So of course I grew up there until I was 12, so that's why I know Swedish. Number 2 is when I learned Filipino or Tagalog. When I was young, I knew how to speak Tagalog and I understood it. So when my mom would always speak Tagalog to me, so that is why I got fluent in Filipino. And then when I was about 6 years old, I stopped speaking Tagalog to my mom because I felt shy. I was in school with my Swedish classmates, and I felt a bit embarrassed about the fact that I spoke another language. And I don't know why I was like that, because I feel like I should have been, proud of the fact that I could speak another language, but instead I felt shy about it. So my mom would still speak to me in Tagalog, thankfully, because if she hadn't done that, then maybe I wouldn't ever have learned that language. So she never stopped. So I would always talk to her in Swedish, and then she would respond in Tagalog. So I kind of forgot how to speak Tagalog. So when I was about 12 and we moved to the Philippines, I had to relearn on how to speak Tagalog, and I learned how to speak Tagalog fluently after 3 months of living in the Philippines. So it didn't take that long, but that was only because my mom spoke to me in Tagalog all the time, so I got used to it, and I just kind of had to refreshen my memory. So that is how I learned Tagalog. Now, of course, English is something I've known from the very beginning, because growing up, I would watch a lot of English movies, English TV shows, and my family, most of them are Filipinos, so one half of my family is Filipino, and in the Philippines, English is like a second language there, and sometimes almost a first language. So when I went there to live when I was 12, I got a lot better at English, and I really improved my skills there in writing, speaking, reading, all of those. So that is how I learned English. Now for Danish, a 4th language I never thought I would ever learn, was when I was 14 and we moved to Denmark. So we moved to Denmark about 8 years ago when I was 14, and for me, Danish was the hardest language I've ever learned, because it's kind of like Swedish, but it messes with your brain so much because it goes against a lot of rules in Sweden. So it got super confusing when I got here and I had to go to school. So when I was in school here and they were teaching me, the spelling, the pronunciation, how to read and stuff like that, it was so confusing because it looked like Swedish, but for some reason also wasn't, because for a lot of words, like for example, let's give a for example. So let's say if I want to say I, here you say jag, so it's J-E-G. but in Sweden it's jag. So in Sweden it's JAG. So here they like to replace the Swedish A with an E a lot of times. So that was super confusing for me because I'm mild dyslexic. So for me that was like crazy confusing because I had to learn a lot of stuff, and the pronunciation here is bizarre, super hard. So when I was in school I would always pronounce all of the Danish words in Swedish almost. So it took a while for me to learn that language. It took about 3 months before I started to understand and everything fluently. And I did go to, you know, normal classes, Danish classes, so that kind of helped a lot with me learning Danish. And also, of course, living in Denmark, I hear Danish all the time, so that is why I learned it also pretty quickly. But for, you know, for the speaking part, it took quite a while before I really learned the language properly. And even 8 years later now, I still don't feel like, or I know that my Danish is not perfect whatsoever, but I've definitely improved a lot with the Danish, I feel like, especially when it comes to understanding Danish. Only took like 3 months before I really could understand everything, so I didn't get, you know, confused when we were in train stations and stuff like that, because in the beginning it was super confusing for me to understand, you know, what they were saying in the stations and stuff like that. So yeah, that's how I learned Danish. Took a while, but yeah. So those are the four languages that I learned and why I learned them and how I learned them. And if you guys are like wanting to learn another language and you're like, you know, want to know some tips from me, I would say that when you learn a new language, the easiest way to learn is, of course, to actually live in the country. I've never really learned a language except for English without me actually living in that language, in that country, you know, the origin of the language country. So I never learned that. It's of course harder to learn a language away from that country, but it's still possible. A lot of people do it, but I would definitely say, like, if you really want to learn a language, definitely go to that country. If you can't, of course, you probably can't like go there and live there, but definitely go on vacation there if you can. And if you can't, like, just watch TV shows in that language that you want to learn. Read books, you know, get a dictionary and translations and everything like that, and just try to listen to it as much as you can. Music also, movies and stuff like that, fun stuff, because when you listen to something that is fun, you learn a lot quicker. And I'm in the process, and also my mom, we really want to learn Spanish, and we want to add a 5th language to our language kind of collection, I guess. I've never really thought that I would learn more than 2 languages, so Swedish and English. I didn't ever think that I would learn more, but because we moved a lot, I learned more languages, and I feel very happy about the fact that I did learn a lot of languages. You know, at the time when I was younger, I was like, oh, I don't want to learn another language, but now I feel really good that I did, because when you learn languages, you get it gets so much better. It feels so good to understand so many people. Also, when you're like outside, it's really fun to, you know, eavesdrop on other people and maybe talk about other people without them knowing what you are saying. So, you know, that is a lot of fun, even though maybe it's a bit mean, but sometimes, you know, sometimes you have to do it because you just have to. We are currently trying to learn Spanish, and it's really hard to do it from, you know, away from Spain or Mexico or Portugal or all those countries that speak Spanish, but because we know Filipino, in the Philippines, there's a lot of words that are very similar or even the same as to the Spanish language. For example, cucumber in Spanish and in Tagalog are both pepino, and for example, rabbit, to say rabbit in Spanish and Filipino is conejo, so it's completely the same. So there's a lot of words that are the same, so that's why I feel like we will learn it even though we aren't in a Spanish speaking country, but we are definitely doing our best. And for me, what I do, I've downloaded an app called Fluent U, yeah, and that app is a really good app, but sadly it's just you know, you can only get like 15 days trial of it, and then you have to pay for it, which I will not do. But FluentU is a really good app where you can like learn about the different language and hopefully, you know, get fluent in it. And I really love it, and I wished so bad that it was for free, because then I would learn Spanish a lot quicker. But what I do is I just go on that app, and then I also watch Spanish YouTubers, even though they don't have subtitles, just to learn the pronunciation. So I really love to watch Wampa. Wampa is a really funny YouTuber. He's a Mexican YouTuber, and he has collabed with English-speaking YouTubers. That's why I kind of know his personality a little bit, because of when he's in their videos, he of course speaks English. So yeah, and sometimes he does speak English in his vlogs, but not so much. But he's a comedian, he's really funny. And yeah, I definitely recommend you guys to watch him. He's really funny, and he has tons of skits on Instagram and stuff like that as well. So that's something I do. I love watching Spanish YouTubers, and just yeah. And I remember when I was younger in Sweden, I listened to this song on the Eurovision contest. I will write the name of the song here, and I remember telling myself like, I will learn Spanish and I will understand this song and I will translate it. And that was like my dream when I was like 10 years old. So, but I never learned it. We did have Spanish. I did study Spanish for like 6 months in Sweden, but then we moved away. And when I was studying it in Sweden, I did really good with, you know, my grades and stuff in Spanish class. I feel like if I would have stayed, I would have gotten really good at Spanish, and also that would probably be the only class where I could get like straight A's, because I really loved it. Anyways guys, if you guys are bilingual, trilingual, polyglot, or just something, write down below what languages you guys can speak. And if you are like a monolingual, I think it's called, which is when you know one language, then that's perfectly fine as well. But you should definitely try to learn a new language. It's never ever too late. And yeah, thank you so much guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Leave any questions or video requests down below and I will make sure to do those. Thank you so much guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below to AriaVille, this channel, and turn on the post notifications next to the subscribe button. And yeah, I will see you next time. Thanks for watching guys. Bye.
Bye.